You're listening to Greater Good Radio Hawaii. Please visit us online at greatergoodradio.com. Today's guest is Jeff Watanabe, founding partner of Watanabe Ing and Komeiji. After you started your business with Watanabe Ing and Komeiji, when was it, or what was your involvement in politics?
Well, I had worked for Dan Inoue while I was in law school, and so I had some involvement with his office and with political campaigns that the senator had. And then when I came back, the law firm that we formed came out of an older law firm that had been made up of, among other people, Bert Kobayashi Sr., who was a former attorney general and then became justice on the Supreme Court, who was a real giant in our industry, and Governor Ariyoshi, who was then a young senator who decided that he was going to become lieutenant governor to Jack Burns. And so those political connections continued throughout pretty much our professional lives, and continue to today. In fact, I just had lunch with Governor Ariyoshi, and he and Senator Inoue have been mentors of mine for longer than they or I would like to admit.
So how does a young person get mentors like that? I mean, these guys are icons in Hawaii's history now. How would a 20-something-year-old or a 30-something-year-old get mentors like that?
Well, if I were a cynic, what I would tell you, Evan, is that, if somebody comes and asks your advice often enough, you come to the conclusion that that person must be brilliant, right? Because he's asking the right person. The joking aside, the reality is that mentorship can occur very easily. You'd be surprised if you called somebody, whoever it was, whether it's a former governor or a former senator or somebody in business, and said you were interested in what they had to say. Large majority of them, I think, would spend time telling you that. And you develop a relationship with them, I think.
Mm-hmm. A lot of them actually have been real supportive, especially in this type of show and in our format.
Exactly.
So where did it go from there? How much nonprofit activities were you doing? Because we look at your resume and it's 20 boards plus
right.
your business. I mean,
right.
And family.
Yeah, family. You take 1 hour per each. I mean, you've got a full work week.
That's true. Maybe a little bit about telling you how my experience in the nonprofit world started. It's not also as altruistic as one might view initially. My first involvement with nonprofit activities really came because I was asked, as many things happen in Hawaii in business, particularly in the service industry, is somebody asked me to do something that I couldn't say no to. I couldn't say no to the person more than I couldn't say no to the activity. And in this case, it was it involved a client I had that had a very serious real estate problem. And I had to go to the real estate commission and ask the real estate commission for help in trying to get this party out of this trouble. And they were very helpful. A month or so later, a member of the real estate commission called me up and said, Jeff, they're looking for a board member for Child and Family Service, which is Hawaii's largest and oldest social service agency. I would really appreciate it if you would consider going on to that board. Okay. All of us know local style. If somebody helps you and then asks you for a favor, you're not going to say no very willingly. And so I said, sure, I'll go take a look at it. And I got involved in it. And what I found, interestingly enough, and this would have been back in the early 70s, was that there were very few lawyers that were involved in community nonprofit work. And not only that, but that the board was made up of a lot of business folks who I would never have had a chance to associate with as a young lawyer.
How old were you?
Let's see. I would have been 27 or 28 probably. And so I got involved, and what I found was that I all of a sudden became associated with a lot of people who were very helpful to me in my career and who I got to know and got to know me. And then pretty soon you get hooked on that stuff, right? You realize that you're making a difference in a community. Most of us come back to Hawaii not only for the weather and because of family, but because we can make a difference in this kind of community. much different than Los Angeles or New York or Chicago, where you can go all of your life pressing buttons in the hope that some light is going to go on because of what you did, and maybe if you're really lucky, one or two might go on. In Hawaii, the real value, I think, of our community in terms of being able to do nonprofit work or be able to be involved in the building of social capital is you press a button in our community and I guarantee you a light will go on and you'll see it. And that's a very gratifying process. So many of us who have had opportunities and offers to go back to the mainland to head larger organizations, when you really think about it, you don't do it. And part of the reason is because here you can make a real difference and you can make it a difference in a fairly short period of time.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for more on Greater Good Radio.